Self-sabotage is one of the most subtle yet destructive patterns in human behavior. It's the quiet voice that convinces you to delay, the hesitation that keeps you from sending that application, the inner negotiation that talks you out of pursuing what you know is right. Psychologically, self-sabotage is often rooted in fear, like fear of failure, fear of rejection, or even fear of success. Spiritually, it reflects a deeper struggle, the tension between living in faith and living in doubt. Here's the truth. When you consistently choose action despite discomfort, you begin to build a new identity. You become someone who doesn't self-sabotage. At first, this transformation feels unnatural, effortful, like swimming against a current. The brain is wired to seek comfort, to avoid pain, and to conserve energy. Psychologists call this the avoidance loop. You feel discomfort, so you avoid action. Avoidance brings temporary relief, but it reinforces the belief that you cannot handle the challenge. Over time, this loop becomes instinct. Breaking it requires courage, which is the willingness to act even when your emotions scream otherwise. This is where spiritual perspective deepens the journey. Scripture reminds us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline. 2 Timothy 1:7. Choosing action despite discomfort is psychological resilience and spiritual obedience. It is saying, I will not let fear dictate my destiny, because I trust that God's strength is greater than my weakness. Each step forward becomes an act of faith, a declaration that you are more than your impulses. In the beginning, following through feels like a battle. You might wake up and wrestle with the thought of exercising, studying, or making that difficult phone call. Your mind will negotiate. Maybe tomorrow, maybe later, maybe never. But when you act anyway, you are rewiring your brain. Neuroscience shows that repeated action forms new neural pathways. What was once effortful becomes automatic. What was once unnatural becomes instinct. This is the psychology of identity formation. You don't simply decide who you are, you prove it through consistent action. Spiritually, this process mirrors sanctification, which is the gradual transformation of character through daily choices aligned with God's will. You stop hesitating not because you are perfect, but because obedience has become your default. You stop sabotaging not because fear disappears, but because faith has grown stronger. Freedom, then, is not freedom from fear. It is freedom from the trap of delay, the trap of avoidance, the trap of self-doubt. Consider the story of Peter stepping out of the boat to walk on water. At first, his action was unnatural, effortful, even terrifying. But as long as his eyes were fixed on Christ, he walked. The moment he looked at the waves, he began to sink. Self-sabotage works the same way. When your focus shifts to fear, you falter. But when your focus remains on purpose, on faith, on the vision of who you are becoming, you move forward despite the storm. Psychologically, the key is to stop negotiating with yourself. Every time you argue with your inner critic, you give it power. Instead, create a rule. When I decide, I act. No debate, no delay. This is how habits are formed through clarity and consistency. Spiritually, the key is surrender. You acknowledge that your strength is limited, but God's strength is infinite. You pray not for the removal of discomfort, but for the courage to act within it. This is how faith matures through trust and obedience. Over time, something remarkable happens. Action becomes your default. You no longer need to bargain with your emotions. You simply move. And in that movement, you discover freedom. Not freedom from fear, but freedom from paralysis. Not freedom from discomfort, but freedom from the trap of self-sabotage. You become someone who acts, someone who builds, someone who grows. This identity shift is the true victory. You are not defined by perfection, but by persistence. You are not defined by flawless execution, but by faithful action. Each step forward is a testimony. I am no longer trapped by hesitation. I am free to live, free to grow, free to become. So today, choose action, choose faith, choose to silence the negotiation and step forward. It will feel unnatural at first. It will feel effortful. But with time, it will become instinct. And when it does, you will realize you have become someone who doesn't self-sabotage. Not because you are fearless, but because you are free.